Good afternoon, everyone. Today's session is going to be a little different because we're kind of in a transitional period right now. Um, I don't know if you've noticed in the weekly emails Molly has sent out that there's been a notice about Vision changing. It's going through a significant upgrade, and they're actually then changing the program name to Vantage Point. The upgrade window is next month. So I was a little torn with, do we stick with this session doing everything in Vision, or do I introduce you to the new program? And you would be one of the first groups to actually see the new system. So we're going to take that approach. I'm going to introduce you to Vantage Point, let you see how nice and new and clean it is. And at the end, once I get a list from Carla of everyone who's on this meeting, I will send out a instruction PDF so that you can actually get into the preview environment and play around and test everything. So we're going to start with that. So we'll go through Vantage Point looking at the new dashboards. We'll look at the Project Hub, which in Vision is the Project Info Center. We'll go over the saved searches. They've made it a lot easier to filter down to things you want to see and easier for the general user to be able to do that on their own. We'll go over the most popular PM reports, which hopefully most of you are already familiar with. I'll show you how you could create your own report or use one of the saved ones to tweak to your own setting. And we'll go ahead and show you some of the sample invoices so you know what invoices look like. And we'll also go over the AP invoice approval process. That's mainly for sub-consultants. We route that through a process that's all in the system. Nothing's getting lost by email or mail. And how you could also do the AR invoice. That's our invoices going out. You could actually review them prior to them being posted and sent out. So with that, let's get started and take a look. So since I'm not a PM, I've actually set up a user ID to log into the program as Dave Flipson. So any projects I pull up here will be projects where Dave is the project manager. So as you can see, it looks quite a bit different. To me, it looks a lot cleaner, more modern. You'll notice on the left navigation, they've put this new section in here called My Stuff. That's where they've organized the most commonly used applications, such as timesheet, expense report, the reporting application. A nice feature is the self-service, which actually I'll show you mine because I don't want to get into Dave's. But this is where you could actually view all of your expense report payments. And you can see that they're all there by year, date. If you actually pull this up, and I won't because it actually shows account numbers, it would show you all the details of your expense reports. You can see how much was paid and it was direct deposit. So that's a really nice new feature that I like. So back to Dave's access here. We'll look at the dashboards. This has been totally revamped for Vantage Point. There are no longer personal dashboards. These are all designed and pushed out by security role. We will have a dashboard for PMs, a dashboard for ops managers, one for client execs, and one for like the CEO, CFO, all that. So on the PM dashboard so far, these are not finalized by any means. We've put like a client AR. So you can actually see a graphical representation of your AR by clients, and that's accounts receivable. That's the total amount of invoices outstanding. And as you hover over any of these chart, the graphical lines on any of these charts, the information will actually pop up. So you don't need to guess. It's a little over 200,000. No, it's $213,440 outstanding. So this will be a lot easier for the PMs to stay on top of their information. I've also added just like a project list showing common information, your PM estimate, percent complete, percent fee used, percent fee billed, and then even the fees columns. Now, if you notice, we have these couple projects in red highlight. We can actually, in these dash parts, add conditional formatting. So we can draw your attention to those projects that might be over 100%, or we could even draw your attention to those where your PM estimate percent complete is higher than the percent billed. So that might tell you that, hey, we probably need to build this project. Some of the other dashboards I've created, and I'll go back to mine, just so you can see what the capabilities are. I have a vice president for civil dashboard. So you can see this civil chart actually shows each team, and it will show each of the quarters. And as you move through each of those lines, you'll see that info bubble changes to match. So there's a lot of capability with these dashboards, which I'm hoping that people will find very useful and get excited about. So that's pretty much dashboards. You will not be able to resize these, change them. The only thing you can do, since Vantage Point is browser agnostic, so now feel free to use Chrome, Firefox, whatever it is you like. You can actually, hit your control and your scroll on the mouse and zoom in or out on those. But that's the extent of customizing your dashboards. So your hubs, that was Envision, the info centers. You will have access to contacts. Those are the employees at your client's company. Firms, those would be our clients and our vendors all in one hub. And you will not be able to make any edits to contacts or firms. The employees hub will give you limited access to information about employees. So you can see a general overview of the employees, currently active, their title, what company they belong to, even email address, supervisor, how long they've been with the firm. The professional tab will show you education credentials such as professional engineer, structural engineer licenses. And the experience tab shows you which projects that employee has worked on. Now, in the Employee Info Center, when it comes to your own record, you would have access to make any edits to the Professional tab. So you could add any credentials. If you go ahead and renew your PE license, you could actually update that here. Or if you, I'm not sure of the correct terminology, but you have your Illinois and you want to go for your Iowa without taking the test, I think, you can apply. So you can then add the Iowa license as well. Not that you have to, but if you are doing that and you're in here, you can make that update on your own record. So let's get to the meat of the project manager here, the Projects Hub. Deltek has organized everything that is needed for a proper project management all in this Project Hub. You'll see there's no toolbar, there's no tabs along the top up here. They're all different menu items. And it does take a little bit to load the first time. What I am excited about is we're now able to give you the contract management information. This is where accounting has in the past stored all of your fee changes, the contracts, change orders, amendments. We log everything on that tab, breaking it out as to where we're putting the fees by phase, by team. And you will be able to actually see that now because we can lock that down in Vantage Point. You'll also have access to plans. This is not my area of expertise. I've never planned out a project. So once you get into this preview environment and start playing, I would like you or some of you to play around with the planning, see if that's something useful to you guys. And I can help you out with anything. Okay, so we've got our 11 projects pulled up because I've set my search here to PM is me. And you'll notice that the tabbing here is very similar to the current Vision Info Center. The overview is the general tab. You know, you've got your name, your client, your location. We've got the PM, PE listed. Any of our client project numbers, as long as they're populated here, they actually automatically appear on our invoices. And then any additional information, fee data. Your accounting tab just again gives us the billing client and how we do our revenue. Your team tab will show you any team members, any employees who are assigned roles on your project or have actually already charged time to your project. And you will see that the hours automatically come in at this point. In Vision, you had to click a button to say refresh hours. You no longer have to do that in Vantage Point. Your dates and costs will give you start dates, completion dates. Sub-consultants is a custom tab we added to track all the sub-consultants assigned to a project. We have a couple projects I know that have like 10 sub-consultants on them. So this is a way we can keep track of which subs and their fees. Your files and links tabs. Links will take you to the project site on the NSUNY. Files would be anything that we've uploaded and attached to this project record, such as the AI contract, any amendments, things of that nature. Your Accounting 2 tab, same as Vision, tells us what fee type this project is. Are expenses included in the fee or not? If they're not, which ones can we bill for? Your additional info tab gives all that project information list data. So your engineering status, any interim events and due dates, the services provided, all the marketing classifications, square footage, all of that is still found on the additional info tab. For those of you that have been through the KPI process before, I've taken the opportunity going into Vantage Point to rename that Client Executive tab to Project KPI. So this tab is where you would go to make all your project KPI entries, where you update the satisfaction ratings, select whether this project is in construction or not, enter any anticipated cost if it's changed, and your KPI comments. In this section, if you are the project manager of a project, your comments will go here in the KPI comments. If you are not the project manager, but you're the lead structural engineer or the lead technology engineer, your comments will go here in this section. And you'll notice as I go over some of these fields, you'll see the pencil icon. And you can just open that up to edit. And then save your comment. If you are in a project and you will be editing a lot of fields, you can actually click on the edit on the toolbar. And it will open up the whole record into edit mode. You will see all the fields that you can change are white, anything that's locked out is gray. Now, as part of project management, you are asked to update your PM percent complete. It varies by team, but most of them require that you update that percentage before the end of the month. That's so that when the WIP worksheets go out after billings are complete for the month, that percentage is as up to date as possible. So when you get into Vantage Point, you will want to go to your Projects Hub and Contract Management. And we'll wait for this to load. You want to make sure that you select, and I'll show you how, that you're set to your project. So PM is me. And I'll show you the quickest way to go through these projects and update those percentages. There will be videos for a lot of these different tasks on Compass when we get them complete. I actually just completed the this update percent complete. I just haven't uploaded it to Compass yet. So let me back up a sec. To filter down to your projects, every hub has this search area. And if you click on the arrow, you have a lot of different searches you can select from. These top ones are provided by Deltek. So it would pull up only active projects. That's through the entire database. It would pull up all projects, again, through the entire database. My active would pull up all active projects where I am listed as PM, PE, CE, biller. It looks at those employee record attachments on the project. We've got project manager, my company, my organization. That would be my team. My searches are personal searches. So no one else has access to my searches. Those would be yours and yours alone. Shared searches will be searches that are saved for more than one security role. So these might be saved for everyone, just PMs, just ops managers, but you would only see the ones that were saved out for your security role. And you can see there is a PM is me active. Legacy searches will be those saved searches that came over from Vision. They can be pulled up and used, but cannot be changed. So going through and the transition to Vantage Point, if you have any personal reports that you use, they will need to be reconfigured in the new program if you need to make any changes to them. So this is how you can get to different searches and pull up different records rather quickly. So this is just PM is me. I have 11 records. I could just update the percentage at the phase level and go project to project. But it'd be much easier to just see them all in a list view. So if you just click on that icon, it'll bring those 11 records into this list view screen. And once it loads, you'll see that it comes up with the project name, project number. I've been playing around in here too long. Okay, so it comes up with the, by default, project number, then name, your overall percent complete, your direct labor, which is commonly referred to as the IMEG fee, direct expenses, direct consultants, reimbursables, all the different types of fees, even the exchange rate. If I don't need to see a lot of this, but I'd rather see percent fee used and percent fee billed, I'm going to go to the gear icon and select my grid settings and just search for percent. And I'll add these two fields to my selected columns. They show up down at the bottom. And it's very easy to just reorder those. I'd rather have them right next to my labor than any that I don't want to see. I just put an X, click the X, and it removes that column. And there's my new project list. Even at this point, you can still reorder your columns by clicking on the header and dragging and dropping. So very easy to use and reorganize the way you want. To open up the phases, just click on any of these arrows and it will show you every phase on that project. And then you'll be able to just update the overall percent complete at that point. Sorry, the first one always takes a little bit. Second one goes much faster. But I'm hoping that going through this, you're seeing that it appears to me to be much more user-friendly than Vision. So I hope it's a smooth transition for everyone. And just to let you know, there will be formal training starting probably the week of October 21st for timesheets and expense reports, and then further training after that for PMs and reporting. I think I should have picked a different project. Are there any questions so far? The settings you make, the changes to those do remain there. They are personal preference, so it's up to you how you like to see it, and you can change it at any time. Again, just by going to that gear icon and changing your grid settings. Something else I also point out, so as it gets done spinning, anytime you get in this sort of grid or list view and you see these 4 arrows, that will actually expand that grid to full screen size. So it gives you a lot more real estate to work with and review the information. And then also back in the grid settings, if there's any other piece of information that we store for the project records that you'd like to see in this view, feel free to add it. Um, I just thought the percent fee billed and percent fee used would be useful, but if there's anything else that you like to see, it is a personal preference, so you can add anything you like. And I have to say it didn't take this long a half hour ago. Oh, okay, while we're waiting for him to pop up, let's do a little review of the saved searches. Ah, I knew it. As soon as you go someplace else, it decides to work. Okay, so our phases finally popped up. And all you have to do to change those percentages is just click on that field, change it. It will save after each record. Now you may notice that the project level percent did not change like it would normally do in Vision. It does, but it doesn't show here right away. If you actually went to the project detail view at the project level, you'll see that it will have updated. I won't do that right now, but trust me, it does update. But just make sure when you get in this view that you are only updating the phase levels. So hopefully that, at least this part, appears easier than Vision. It's all on one screen. If you have a great internet connection, you can get through them lickety split. I tell you, I do this at home and I wait. So I'd much rather do it at work. Okay, so that is updating your PM percent complete. Vantage Point has also given us dashboards specific to the project. So you could actually, cross my fingers, this will actually come up with a dashboard that shows you the accounts receivable, like the days outstanding. It'll show you if you have a plan, it could actually show you your contract versus amount used. Can also show you that in hours. It can show you the estimate to completion, your estimate at completion, if you do a plan or a budget for your projects. All right, we'll let that come up. Okay, save searches. In any report, you can set up your own search. For example, you may want to pull up all projects where Leggett was the client. It was a school, project type was school. When you search for records and you click on the arrow, it automatically by default shows up every single project in the database. So if you click on your search hyperlink, it will open up the search dialog box. By default, Deltek preloads project status is active. If you want to pull up all projects in the database with your different criteria, you can certainly click the X and remove that. So if you want to select a field, you can type client. It will come up with every possible field that contains client. So we'll just say client. Your operator could be contains, Leggett. You could also do equals. And you don't have to be specific like you had to Envision. When you do equals and you just type Leggett, it will come up with any possible combination, any client that contains Leggett. So Leggett Architects, or were you looking for Steeplegate Inn? I wanted Leggett Architects. You make that selection. It now limits your project list down to projects with Leggett as the client. And we wanted maybe project type is, I don't know, schools, education, higher ed, PK through 12. I've now got 301 results. To me, this kind of search is a lot easier than Vision, where you had to know the exact name of the field. You can just start typing it in. In Vision, you type PR, and it would first take you to the first field that starts with a P, and then it would take you to the first field that starts with an R. You can type in here the full name of the field you're looking for. By default, these are and statements. So you're looking for client is Leggett and project type is PK through 12. You can save your options by clicking on the Save Options button and give it a name, and it would be by default saved only for yourself. So to me, this searching area is a lot easier to understand than Vision was. And of course, if you're not sure about your fields, you can just start scrolling through the list as well. Let's see how it's being difficult. Okay, so let's just hop to reporting. Under your My Stuff, you'll have the link to the reporting center. The favorites reports are all those reports that have been saved out for your access. We've already set the options of the report. We've already set the selection. So in Vision, this would be the reports that reside on your dashboard. reports are the blank reports. Let's consider them the templates. These are the reports that all the favorites are built off of. Let's remove that. They are, everything that you have access to is listed here. If you need to filter down, you'll see there will be a filter icon on the toolbar. You can filter by type. So you only want to see the project reports. You can filter that way. And while we're here, you'll see these 4 arrows, and it just maximizes the screen, fills it up. So let's go to our favorites. Let's clear that. Now you may have access to a few more reports than you feel you need. You can actually, using the filter down to, I only want to see the reports that have PM in the name. So here's all my PM reports. And you see the records are set to only pull up the projects where PM is me, and only those active projects. So let's start going over some of these reports. I'm going to have to change this since I'm in here as me at this point. And if you need to change, let me do that again. If you need to change any of these selections, opening up this field, click on the down arrow, click the search hyperlink, and I'm going to change this to my personal selection where I've already set it to pull up Dave Flipson's projects. And then just click on the report name to run it. So hopefully you're all familiar with the PM project overview. And this is a report that actually Dave Flipson came up with. And I called it the easy button report when I was designing it, because it has every piece of information on the project all in one report. So up at the top, you've got your key employees on this project. The client is listed. This is where we will be mailing the invoices. So if this is wrong, you need to let your biller know. It lists some additional reports you may find useful. And then we start getting into some more project data. So your project, so the spreadsheet section just lists your fee broken out by simply expenses, labor, and your consultants, non-billable versus billable. And it will show you your percent fee used, percent billed, the actual fee assigned, what has been billed. Unbilled is simply fee minus billed. The current cost at billing is all the time currently on the project that has not been invoiced. Ideally, that would be everything charged to the project since the last invoice date. There are occasions where we do an invoice, but we have to hold some time. So we just say that, you know, the current cost is everything sitting there that has not been billed yet. Your JTD is job to date, cost at billing. So the total amount charged to this project to date would be this amount. And then it shows us your last invoice date. We show you how your fees are broken down by phase and how they've been billed and how much has been charged per phase. And then anything that is unbilled. If your team does revenue projections, those will show up here. Not all teams do them, so that's simply a team discretion. But that is where you kind of guesstimate how much revenue you will be basically invoicing in the coming 12 months. We've also included your KPI data. So you've got your satisfaction ratings, the percent expected, your current percent of fee, the costs, and your KPI project comments. Then we also break your fee up by team, so you can see where you've assigned fees for each of the teams. And on this project, they've only assigned team to themselves, HHO2, and then TTO1. Anyone else has just kind of hopped onto the project. And as you can see, they would get credit dollar for dollar. That's the way it used to be. They would get credit for the time that they worked on that project. We also have the outstanding accounts receivable information. This will list all of the invoices that have not been paid yet, their amount and the date they were invoiced and how many days outstanding they are. So in this particular project, they're all in the over 121 bucket. And then we do have a brief evaluation sheet information. This will show you all the employees who have worked on the project in the previous month. And then since this is pulling up all 11 projects, you just go through the next pages and each project has its own page. If any of Dave's projects had any sub-consultants on them, there is also a section included, I think right about here, that would show all of the outstanding sub-consultant invoices that have not been paid yet. You need to keep in mind that this is a pay when paid business. So anytime we have a sub-consultant, we do not pay them until we have received payment. If they are part of an overall fixed fee, we pay them to the same percentage that we have been paid. Any questions on the project overview report? I'm going to take that as a no. Awesome. We have the PMAR report. I have to get back as Dave to do this one. This is currently on everyone's dashboard in addition to all the reports I'm showing you. So this will show you all the projects where we have invoices outstanding, where you are listed as the PM. And it will show you the aging buckets. We have several over 150. If we have any invoices that have retainage, those show up separately. But you can see if you are making phone calls to your clients about outstanding AR, this report will give you all of the invoices and the amounts that are still outstanding, organized by client. Another important one to keep in mind is the PM consultant invoices and payments report. Now I know Dave doesn't have any sub-consultants right now, so I'm just going to pull up a project that I know has them. This will show you on your projects all of the sub-consultants you have for your different projects. So this project I pulled up, the Scripps Memorial, has a sub-consultant called iScience. And this will show all of their invoices entered into our system. The voucher amount is the amount we have entered in the system. Previous payments will show up if we have actually made a payment to the consultant. And if you're on that line, you'll see the date it was paid and the amount. Discounts taken, we don't take any discounts pretty much. The last column is the outstanding amount due. We'll scroll down here. We've got on this project 4 invoices that have not been paid yet. Now, if you notice this NP, the system does realize that we have actually invoiced our client for this invoice. And in fact, it will show you, I actually invoiced the client on invoice 12 for this sub-consultant. But the system knows we have not been paid for it yet. If this said PD and this was still outstanding, then I know that I could pull then this invoice and get them paid. And we do have a question: should the sub-consultant send an invoice with the associated job number and associated task? The job number at the very least would be awesome. We could figure out the phase and the team later, but having them put our project number on their invoice would be just like us putting our client's project number on our invoices. A lot of them require that of us, and in fact, some of them reject the invoice if we don't have their project number on it. We're not a company that does that. We make every effort to figure out which project that they're sending an invoice for. But yeah, by all means, if you are dealing with a sub-consultant, please just let them know, could you please include our project number on your invoice? It's very simple to do. I mean, they should not pitch a fit about it. But yes, that would be awesome. So this is a report that when the sub-consultant calls and wants to know, why haven't we received payment on, this invoice for $1,900, this is a report you can run and look and see, well, we have not received payment yet. As soon as we do, we will remit payment to you. You can always ask your TFA, that's not an issue. It just, if it's after hours and you happen to be in the system, this is a report that you can run on your own and pull up this information and see that, either we have been paid or we have not been paid. Next, let's take a look at the PM billing template. Everyone should be familiar with this one, right? This will pull up all of your projects that have billing terms assigned. It's hard to invoice a project if we don't have billing terms set up, so this just pulls up those that do have everything set up already. And again, we point out the client and the address. So please just do a quick look to make sure we still have the correct client. We try to put this in front of everyone's faces as much as possible, and yet we still find out 3 invoices down the road that, we had the wrong client listed. Again, shows your last invoice date. If this was a project that we had a schedule for, like the client wants to receive their invoices by the 20th of the month or the 3rd week of the month, we actually list that in the project hub now, and it would print out on the billing template as well. We also tell you who your TFA is. So this billing template would be sent to Jacob when you're done with it. And again, we show how your fees are split out by type, expenses, labor, the 2 consultants. We show you your projections if you project anything out. And then your billing terms section, this will show you basically how the invoice goes out. I will point out that anytime you see anything with a phase description and you'll see something entered there, that means this invoice is grouped. So they don't actually see all 12 lines. They really only see 6 lines. So the ICL milestone number 1 would actually show a fee of $18,583. It's these 2 lines combined. The TFAs will break this out and do it this way so that the revenue can automatically post to the correct phase and the correct team without doing any manual intervention. Any hourly phases will show up separately down below. And they continue. So if each of your phases are hourly, they do show up separately. We do list the fee agreement, how everything's broken out. Now you see this one with the phase description has nothing listed. So the invoice actually comes out with these 7 lines shown as they are with the fee and what's been billed to date so far. When you run these, we do ask you to download them to Excel, make your markups, and email them to your team financial assistant. Once in Excel, all you need to do is click in the PM bill to percentage and type the percent that you want us to bill to. So for example, this construction administration, that's only 80%. If you want us to go to 90, do not type 10%, type 90. Okay? Always what we want to bill to. Any of these reports can still be downloaded, of course, and those are all our available formats. So this one you would actually download to Excel. Each project would come in its own tab. And then you just fill it in, send it to your TFA. If you are not billing a project, there is no need to type like here, like 50 or 0. You can just leave that tab blank. You could even delete it if you like. But if you're not billing anything, there's no need to go to extra effort and do anything additional. Also, for some reason, some PMs like to okay, I want to bill to 100%, and then below they'll type, please bill this phase to 100%. Yeah, we got that by you putting in the 100% above. So just save yourself a little extra effort. We'll get there. If we have any questions, we'll ask. If you have any additional comments, such as maybe you want the project closed, you could type that down here as well. Bill and close, or just close. Even instructions like, please add amendment 7 and then bill. You can always put extra instructions in your billing template. Any questions on our billing template? Everyone's an expert, right? Awesome. Okay, we do have another report, the PM evaluation sheet, that a lot of our, I don't want to say older, but legacy employees use. The PM evaluation sheet is a report that was converted, let's say, from Semaphore, which is a program we used before Vision. So that's like 2005 and before. And they were so used to that report that we had to recreate it in Vision just so they could, be comfortable. But this is a report that you can use to quickly scan through your projects and see who charged time to your projects last week. Since I'm now in a preview environment that is a backup of July data, nothing's going to show up here, unfortunately. But this is where you could see, it's set for last week's time frame, and you can just scan through. And if someone shows up, you can say, oh, nope, that person did not work on my project last week. We need to get that time transferred off to the right project before we do any invoicing. Once we invoice and that time was there, it gets marked that it was billed and archived, and we can no longer touch it and move it to the correct project. So this is something you can check, just a quick scan down through the report. It will also show you job to date hours for each employee by phase. At the bottom of the project, it will show, let's get this a little bigger. It will show the IMEG fee and your percentage fee. It would show the total current hours and amount, just like it's showing the total job to date hours and amount. Now, as with any report, if you find that there are just too many pages to go through to look for maybe the one project you want to look at, over on the left of any of these report screens, you'll see this gray line. And this is the same with Vision reports right now as well. If you click on that, it will show what it's called the document map. So it shows me all 11 projects where Dave, is the PM. And if you click on any of the project numbers, it takes you to that page that project starts on. So you can see it jump to page 11. Here's this project. Click on that one. It jumps to page 1 for that project. So this is an easy way to navigate any of the larger project reports. I hope that was a new bit of information. So, creating your own report. You can actually, you go to the base reports, and let's say we want a project list. Now, as long as you're at the base reports, you can go ahead and click on the report name, project list. And the first screen that will come up is your columns and groups. So how would you like it grouped? This would group it by project number, then by phase, then by team. And I'll tell you a quick thing right off the bat. If you're doing a project list, you probably don't care about the 41 teams within each of your 5 phases. So go ahead and get rid of phase and team. So this will simply be grouping on the project number. To select your columns, it would list project, phase, team, but I don't need phase, I don't need team. Here I have project name and organization name. Well, let's say I want to add the fee. Click on the Manage Columns hyperlink, and you've got your Select Columns dialog box. So you can just start typing what it is you're looking for. I don't need acquisition fees. Let's go fee direct labor. Maybe reimbursable consultants. Maybe I want the fee type. Maybe I want the project type. Maybe I also want the client. Billing client. So that was pretty easy to select whatever columns I wanted. And even at this point, you can still reorder your columns. You can change the width of your columns. You can change the format of the numbers. So if you want decimals to show or not. The options. This will show all projects, phase, or teams with activity in this area. Current to Deltek means the current month. So if you want a list of all projects throughout the entire database that meet whatever selection criteria we set, you don't want to use just current. You would want to use job to date. So we'll change that. The other thing you can do is just simply uncheck project. Now there's no limitations. Project list does not, in this instance, does not really make sense for a chart, but a lot of the reports you could actually make a chart. Your layout will show you margins if you want this portrait or landscape, using letter, legal, whatever paper size. So there's our quick report. Now the records, we did a brief save search before, but you can always use one of the saved searches, possibly a search you saved previously. So let's just do PM is me. And we'll apply. and run our report. If you don't like the looks of it, you can always close the screen, go back and make some sizing changes, reorganize columns. Has anyone tried to do their own report in Vision? I'm going to say that's probably a no. Hopefully you'll take a stab at it in Vantage Point. So you can see our project list came up, and it's got our project number and name and our billing client. Organization was still left in there. But here's our direct labor, any consultants, our fee type, our project type, just the little things we selected. If you like this layout and would like to keep it, you can always save it as a personal favorite. You could schedule this to run on a recurrence setting, so like once a month or every week, not maybe this particular report, but any of the other reports, you can set up as a schedule. You can email it to yourself. All the same functions that we currently have in Vision right now. If you need to make a change to the title of the report, which I do recommend because you'll get this report done, print it out, it's laying on your desk. 2 months later, it just says project list. Well, what exactly was it a project list for? Was it just my PM projects? Was it all Leggett educational projects? So be descriptive with the title of your report. Any questions on how to play around and maybe create your own report? I hope it doesn't seem too difficult at all. It seems to me a lot easier than Vision right now. Okay, before we go on to showing you some sample invoices, I do want to go over the AP invoice approval workflow as well as the invoice review workflow. Oh, yes, sorry, we got another question. Yes, you can schedule to email to other employees. That's how I do all of my monthly, weekly, whatever emails, yes. And actually, let's pull that up. In the email dialog box, you actually have a listing of all the employees. You could actually start typing in the to box. You can also use the filter to filter down even by organization or by name. Also, you have the option to select what file type the report is when it goes out. Most of the time, reports are sent out in PDF, but you can also select Excel, Word, all these different selections. Okay. Invoice approvals. So I don't know if you've noticed, there's this red box at the top with a 4 in it. This is the notification center in Vantage Point. This replaces the alerts dash part on the Vision dashboard. So anytime something happens that you need to be notified about, it will show up here, and it's separated into notifications and action items. Notifications are just usually FYI. Some things I have set up right now, like Dave, in fact, wants to be notified anytime an HHO2 project is taken out. So right now that shows up on his dashboard in the alerts dash part that 19001000 was just taken out for your team. Well, in Vantage Point, that is something that would show up here. Now, the action items are notifications where you are required to do something. So right now, I, as Dave, have 2 invoices I need to approve. I have an AP invoice approval awaiting my attention, and that is, just consider that your sub-consultants. So we'll click on that. Let's leave this page. And then this takes me to the AP invoice approvals screen. So what this is, the invoice number, the vendor, I'd really like them to show up with the name, but it's showing up with the vendor number. I can actually tell you that it's iScience if you click on the hyperlink. So this is an iScience invoice for $4,600. I would recommend that you do not just automatically approve it. You need to take a look at it. So if you click on the pencil icon, it'll take you to this edit screen. There's nothing you need to actually edit here. You just need to look at the sub-consultant invoice, which you can do by clicking on this hyperlink. So here's our sub-consultant invoice. And let's scroll down. Okay, $4,600. Here's my project number, 18002841. If I go back to the screen, I see it's been charged to 19001392. This is not my sub-consultant invoice. So at this point, I'm going to reject this invoice. If it was mine, it was okay. You could just click the approve button. But I'm going to click on the arrow on that button, and I'm going to say reject. Anytime you reject an invoice, you must put in a comment. If you're approving it, a comment box does come up, but it's not required, so you don't need to fill out anything. So we've got, I'm rejecting it. It's been assigned to the wrong project number. Once I reject it, it sends it back to the person who submitted it. So now they'll receive a notification, and they'll have to make the correction and get it sent off and assigned to the correct project so that the correct project manager can approve the invoice. Okay, back to our other alert. So I have one draft invoice. When it refers to a draft invoice, that is an invoice that we are doing off of your billing template to send out to a client. So we'll take a look here. So we've done an invoice for this project. The invoice total is $8,000. And we'll see that it's in Dave Flipson's court to approve. I'm the one who did the invoice. And my comments were testing the invoice review process. So I could actually, even though it says print invoice, you're not actually printing. It just comes up on the screen. So we can take a look at this. and see if I followed Dave's instructions. Open sesame. Okay, so here's our invoice, and I'm invoicing this project to 50%. If this is correct, and this is what I as the PM instructed my TFA to do, then yes, I would go ahead and accept this invoice. If it's not, I'd reject it and it would go back into the TFA's court to correct. So you can see how the invoice is set up, how it goes out to the client. And we'll say approve. At this point, it does give you an opportunity to add a comment. Again, if you're approving, it's not required. And we'll just save that. Now the invoice status has changed to approve. And the biller listed on that project is actually Jacob. And so this actually gets sent to Jacob's court to complete the invoice and send out. If you as a PM feel the need that you need to review invoices before they go out, it does need to be approved by your client executive. Some PM or some projects and invoices have to show pay rates. There's just a handful, but those are ones that may not that we may not want the PMs to view. We might set that up as a client executive has to approve. It is a little time consuming, I'll put it that way, because we won't post the batch until those invoices come back as being approved, or rejected that we have to fix. So the PMs need to be on top of these. If they really want to view invoices, they need to be on top of the approvals. They can't just let them sit there for days on end because that will hold up posting of invoices. I do see a question about we've never been able to view them in the past, and that is true up until recently. Actually, in Vision, if you go to the help and how-to instructions, there are instructions on the invoice approval workflow. And this has been available for, I'm going to say, almost a year now. The CEs did agree to this. So this will tell you that, this is something that's available to move your invoices through submittal, approval, and acceptance stages. Since it is a project setting, it's not something that we can say this PM wants to see all his invoices. It is project specific. So we need to know, your TFAs need to know which projects that you want to see the invoices on. And that is available now. We do have a few using that right now. In fact, I myself am still still doing a little invoicing for a very particular client. So I actually use the invoice workflow for those invoices so that they're definitely approved by the PM before they even go out. Any questions on the AP approval workflow or the AR invoice approvals? No? Awesome. So let's take a look at some sample invoices. Hopefully you can see an invoice right now. So all of our invoices go out. We have the invoice total at the top. Through an update about 2 years ago, this is something that Deltek made a change to, that we can add, certain different fields everywhere, and actually do a little more customization of the invoice template. We found that a lot of times if for example, this invoice page 1 ended here on this fee of $439, and then the expenses went to the second page, they would only enter and then pay the $439. They totally missed the second page of the invoice. So by putting the invoice total at the top, that has helped a lot in alleviating that situation. So you'll see where the invoice was sent, to whose attention, to what client, and the address. We've got our invoice date. Invoice number is actually a combination of the project number and invoice number. So this, to the client, this is the whole invoice number. To us, it's just invoice 47. Now you'll see those project number, PO number, contract, and work order number. These are from the custom fields we have in the Project Info Center or Project Hub. So this will be the client's project number. So when they receive this invoice, they can punch in that project number and they know right away it's on the right project. So then we list our project. We've got our project number, the project name. On all invoices, we include our understanding of what the fee is. So this particular project was just strictly time and material. We actually build and build and build and build and build. I think the fee on this started out at 113,000 and we ended up billing 215,000. They were very happy with us and we just kept working and working and working. On hourly invoices, we always list just the labor category. I won't say we never list names, but we try not to list names. We just want to keep it at the labor category. It'll show total hours and how much that amounts to. We list our expenses and what multiplier we're using. On invoices such as this, where it's just time and material, kind of open-ended, we do like to put a billings to date summary at the bottom. We might be doing their accounting for them, but that's okay. It's just a checkbox, so we've got that on there. This is a time and material estimated 54,000. When it's estimated, again, we'll still put a summary at the bottom. As we get closer to billing 54,000, we might ask you, is the client okay with going over? Do they realize it is really estimated and not to exceed? Is it okay to bill 55,000? If there is a not to exceed and we exceed it, this billing limits section will show up. And it will show that, yes, we've, charged $3,600. We have a not to exceed of $3,500. We're writing off $167. And the system does this automatically. Now you notice that the total invoice amount is over $3,500 because our not to exceed did not include the travel. We're allowed to go over and actually bill over that for the travel. We always look at your proposal or contract to see what the fee agreement is, and that's where we get this note. When we have expenses, we always include a billing backup, and this breaks out from your expense reports, all of the expenses. So on this particular project, Matt Mears drove to a meeting 66 miles. And so we give all that detail to reduce the amount of questions we get on our expenses. So be careful in what you type on your expense reports, because that will show up and we may not catch any inadvertent comments. When it's a fixed fee, we can do just a simple, here's the total fee, our percent complete, total earned, previously billed. So this is our current amount. It's just keep it very simple. If it's a small fee, we don't really do a lot of line items. We just keep it really simple. This particular invoice, we do have 3 line items, but we list them as disciplines because that's the way the fees were presented in the proposal. Mechanical electrical was this much, technology was this much, structural was this much. We will match our invoice to the way you presented the fees to the client. And again, billing expenses, so we have our billing backup. This invoice being a fixed fee, but it's a little bit bigger fee. So we actually list out each of the phases. And then we have the fee per phase, percent billed, and all that. Now you notice our fee understanding started out at 25,000. Then we added Amendment 1 for $6,200, which happens to be this imaging equipment and IT coordination. We also, on all invoices, list the professional services date. So this invoice will be for all time and expenses from April 17th through May 28th. This is one of the reasons why we need to have expenses turned in weekly. We are constantly billing. You never know when a client's actually going to call and ask for an invoice. Yes, it does happen. So we need to be current with everything because we can't, at this point doing this invoice for expenses that might have been January 2017 that you might have turned in May 1st. Okay, so keep your expenses current. Now here's an invoice that your fee is actually percent of construction cost. We always list the full understanding of the fee. So right now we're thinking mechanical is going to be 4.5% times a 2.5 million estimated mechanical construction cost. On this type of project, if it goes all the way to completion, still being just a percent of construction, we cannot issue the final invoice until you receive the final schedule of values. We need to know the final construction cost, including any change orders. We need that in order to figure our final fee. Once we have that figured, we'll take this estimate off, update the construction cost, and then invoice 100%. Now, even with a percent of construction cost fee, we could still invoice it like the previous fixed fee or just the simple 5-phase line items. But since we have different fee agreements, let's say for mechanical and structural, of 4.5% of mechanical versus a 0.45% of total, we've actually grouped this invoice into the two different sections. So you can see the mechanical grouping, but you can still see all 5 phases. And then you'll see that the total fee matches the total fee up on our note. And then structural as well, same thing. And again, we have our billing backup showing UPS expense. One other way we can invoice that is not used a whole lot is we can invoice as a unit based. The more common one would be like a certain dollar amount per square foot. And we can put in the number of square feet, the fee per square foot, and then it automatically calculates the fee. So if the square footage changes while you're in the midst of the project, all we have to do is update the number of square feet and it will automatically update the total fee on the invoice. We put in our percent complete and it figures everything for us. So that is our invoices, our formats in a nutshell. Those are the most common ones. With Deltek and the invoice template, we can do a little more customization, but there are some things that are just kind of out of the realm of possibility. So that is something that we might have to actually download into Word, do a little edit, upload it back into the system, and let it go out that way. When clients have their own invoice forms, those will not be in the system. We do those separately, but we still have to get our invoice done in the system just so that it posts to your project, posts to the general ledger, so that all the financials are correct. So any custom forms will not actually be within the Vantage Point or Vision system. I don't know if I have one here. Some invoices we actually just email to the client. We don't mail out. We prefer email. So if you arrange that with the client, or you can ask during negotiations or at the proposal stage, do you like to have invoices emailed? Please include that on your project request, or notify your TFA if you've already have the project taken out. And we will put the email address within the project record, and that will automatically appear on the invoice when they run it out. They don't need to think about it. It shows up here. They can just email it from their screen. Any questions on invoices or invoice formats? No? Awesome. Okay, we can close that. Any questions on the new system coming? Everything works pretty much the same. There are some very nice enhancements. It's still, you just gotta get in there, do your timesheet, do your expense report. The dashboards will be a nice new addition for everyone, I believe. After this, I'll get the listing from Carla of everyone on the call, and I will send out instructions on how you can get into the preview environment and play around. I will caution that it is our July 24th, I believe, backup data, so it's not current. So don't freak out if you don't see your project that you took out last week. It's not in there. And you can't break anything. I've actually discovered a few defects that I've reported to them, and they are really quick in getting them taken care of, which is really nice. But hopefully you'll get in and play around, and I'd really like you to play with that project plan. One question popped up. Anything the user can do to avoid slow responding Deltek? That's an awesome question. It is, I'd have to say it does rely on internet traffic a bit. Since we are in the cloud, our data is in the cloud right now. Yeah, I have noticed that certain times of the day it is slower, and then I run the same report at like 9:30 at night and I have it in like a minute. So yeah, uh, the internet traffic and amount of users, I think, does take a little bit. If you are running reports and you find they take a while, I've discovered this with the AR report because it takes about 5 minutes to run company wide, and I don't want to sit there and watch it spin for 5 minutes. I will actually set that report to email to myself, and it actually usually takes a slower or a faster amount of time to do it that way. When you do the email report, it actually runs on a separate process server in the background instead of running on the main, let's say I want it now, report server. Okay. So it's running off in a separate area and it seems to go faster. So, like the team monthly summary report for the ops managers and CEs, that is a report that would take a little bit sometimes. Emailing it, you can get it in like a minute or two. So if you discover that with any reports, I suggest the email trick. I do that one quite a bit. In fact, our company balance sheet, I can't even run on the screen. I have to email it every time. It's just, it's doing too much in the background with the computations to run on the report server in the system. Good question. Any other questions? And again, you guys can email me anytime, it's no problem. Or your TFAs. Okay, well, if everyone's good, once I get the list, I will. Oh, one more question. How does open-ended time and material fee works? Um, I'm not sure I understand that question. Do you mean setting a fee at the beginning of the project? If that's the case, I would just guesstimate a fee. And then as you move along and discover you're going to keep going, just keep asking your TFA to increase the fee. I hope that answers the question. If not, get in contact with me. But with that, I guess we will call this a wrap. Thank you so much.